Hi and welcome to the She Will Shine podcast. Today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking to Angelique Petzierides. Hi, Ange.
I love how you get my name right every time.
That's
a good effort. I love it. Thanks for having me. It's always exciting to come here and catch up with you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Ange has a really interesting story to share, and I really am excited to bring it to you. Every story that I bring has their own different element. Like, even though we're all women in business and we all have similar challenges that we're faced with today, it's the backstory, I think, that really sheds a different light on who we are and why we do what we do.
And we've all got a backstory.
Exactly.
Some of us, in my case, it's really, really back.
Yeah, that's right. We've got heaps of time. We can edit. So I just want to start off, Ange. Yep. Let's go back kind of high school.
Yep.
What did you want to do when you left high school?
So I left, finished year 12, and I wanted to do teaching. I've always wanted to do teaching. I did all my work experience in kindergartens. In year 12, I took a subject at the Melbourne Zoo. One day a week I'd work out at the Melbourne Zoo School and did cross-age tutoring, where I worked with kids that came into the zoo to learn about animals and their environment. So it's something I had a strong passion to do. I was lucky enough to get into uni to study teaching. But after about 6 months, I piked out because all my friends were working and they were making money and I wasn't. And really dumb decision. I just walked away from it and got myself a job. But that was 30 odd years ago, and there was always still something there for me. I love the idea of being around kids and helping kids, educating them. It sort of led me to do my personal training course so I could work with kids in sport. And then a year and a half ago, I decided to do my integration aid certificate via correspondence so I can get into the schools and help the schools. So I finished that last year.
Yeah.
I'm not teaching, but I got a lot out of the course. It was something I loved doing, I love learning about. And I think that the love of wanting to help not only just kids, but helping somebody and educating somebody is what's brought me to even have my own business, in terms where I know that I can help somebody and educate somebody with my knowledge so they can do better in their lives.
And also, I know you quite well, and family is very important to you.
Absolutely.
And children very important to you. So it's sort of carried through all these years.
It does, yeah. And for me, spending time with my niece, my nephews, my cousins, and helping them along the way, just watching, and having a big interest in what they do as well. And I just find that thing is always there. And, maybe next year or the year after I might get into teaching or, go into a school and help. But I feel like I did the course. I got it out of my system.
Yeah.
It's there, but right now I'm just concentrating on this part of my, the business is this part of my life. Yeah.
So from teaching, you left the course 6 months in, and then what did you do?
Yep. I did a couple of small jobs, in law, all different areas, legal areas, and then I landed myself the perfect job in my buying office.
Oh my gosh, you were buying things
everybody
for a living.
wanted to be, and it was amazing. We were right in the middle of the city, corner of Swanson and Burke, so we were smack bang in the middle of the city. And I was working in the sporting goods department. So at the time I was an admin assistant, so I was basically doing the ranges, which we did by hand then, and I was helping the buyer with little bits and pieces. Then I moved into the toy department, and so that role became a buyer's assistant role eventually, up to the 12 years, where I worked with range selection, would visit suppliers to pick and choose product. I worked with, I think we had like 71 stores then, so I was the liaison for the stores. We did range distribution. A key part of my role was the marketing part of the role. So back in the day when I was in toys, we had the toy catalogue, which came out twice a year.
I still love that toy catalogue.
And it was like a big deal. It was like a 40-page. It was almost like a coffee table book. So part of my role was to coordinate all that product, brief it to the ad agencies, and then bring in all the stock, make sure the stock was in the stores, and then once it was in store, then analyse sales and all the rest of it. So that was an amazing part of the role. And it was just really, it was like heaven on earth being in that role.
So it was all on the job training and experience?
All on the job training. I hadn't studied anything in uni or anything like that, so it was basically just working my way up. I worked with an amazing team, friends that I still have to today.
Isn't it interesting? The people you work with make such a difference in what you're doing.
Such a difference. And it's been through my entire career. It's the people that I've worked with have driven me, and it's, I loved that, and I want that to be part of my teaching as well in what I do to my daughter. Like, you know, that if you work with good people and you're around good people, good things will come to you.
Yeah.
So it was just, you know, we would ride around in little cars in the lifts. You know, we had the little ride-on cars, and my friend and I would get in the lift and ride up and down, and we just had so much fun. And to me, having fun at work is key, you know, and I had 12 years of that, and every moment was amazing. And then from there, I was offered a role in Wholesale, so I went to the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was happening? So that's what happened career-wise. What was happening personal-wise?
Personal-wise, in that time, halfway through there, I got married. I was only 23 years old.
Quite young, yeah.
Quite young, and it turned out to be a very toxic marriage. I enjoyed verbal and emotional abuse, and my safe haven was work. So I'd get up in the morning feeling battered and beaten, and I would get to work and my whole life would change.
Yeah, that was
I'd
your
brighten
safe
up.
space. Yeah.
My safe space. The friends that I made there, we had a little group of us who we called the Seinfeld group back then. We'd sit in this little souvlaki bar at lunchtime, and I had a little booth, and we talked about me being on the bench one day because my two friends were divorced and they were on the bench. And it became a bit of a joke, but it was also safe for me.
Yeah.
And my managers were very supportive of me. And I used to watch the clock and I'd go, my gosh, it's 4:45, you know, 5 o'clock. That's it, you know, and I'd get back in the train and I'd go back, and it was just from this high in the office
the dread that would come.
The dread, yeah. So that was, you know, it was a very difficult time.
Yeah.
But again, the people that I worked with survived me. My family were amazing and are amazing. But, you know, when you're working with people for, 8, 9 hours a day, for them to be able to, you know, to help me survive. And I truly love what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think that was key. You know, if I was in a job that I got there and I hated and, you know, I just dreaded, I think I don't even know where my life would be right now. But because I loved it.
The joy that those 8 hours brought you every day.
You know, cancelled out all the crap that I was going back home to.
Yeah.
You know, so so anyway, that marriage ended. I did end up on the bench with my friends, which is still a joke to now, but you know, it's a good bench. And then from then I was, I think, 27, 28, and that's when my life turned around and things just got better.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's when I started living my life. You know, it just, everything turned around, and from that point I became more of an independent, positive person.
Yeah. Which is, it's really interesting you say that, because I think those two words come to mind when I think of you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really interesting that they're the two words that you
and I was never like that. I was always introverted. I was always not very confident. You know, I was the dag at school. I was the dork. I was in the daggy group. You know, I was never cool. You know, I had a fantastic family home and family life, but when it came to friendships, I didn't go out and do stuff. So I just didn't have that confidence. Whereas after, you know, that terrible relationship, I had something to start living for. And it was only when somebody said to me, a very close friend said to me one day when I was at rock bottom, that's it, you have to change something. And the minute she said, you have to change something, I took that responsibility off everybody else and I made it my own, and it just all changed. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, turning point.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge, yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back to, you know, professional wise. You went into Wholesale.
Went into Wholesale, so I got an offer a role from one of my suppliers to come across to the other side. And I hesitated at first because I was very happy in my role, but it turned out to be a great choice. So I went across there.
So that was sporting goods, is that correct?
So it was sporting goods and toys. So I was with Trade Scene at the time.
Toys were following you.
Toys again, they were, but it was predominantly sporting goods in this business. Was there for a few years, and then went from there, a role came up at Play Corp, which was in sporting goods again. So I went across to Play Corp and I worked there. Amazing job, amazing people, fantastic friendships, you know, super awesome social life. It was just fantastic. And then I left from there to go to another wholesaler.
Yeah.
I went to Hunter Toys, but each time I was offered that role, and it was always, it took me out of my comfort zone every time because I was always happy in my job.
So why did you look elsewhere?
I didn't. People can. I was asked. I was
headhunted. Okay.
headhunted across. So basically, a supplier, or because the toy and the sporting group industry is very close. We'd go to all the toy fairs. We'd go to all the toy events. And everybody knew everybody. Whilst it was competitive, everybody still knew everyone. And so I'd get the taps on the shoulders, and Ange, come across. No. But when you're happy in your job, you don't want to move. And we work with really cool people, and they're all nice and close. But something told me to move, and each time I moved and I kept the friendships and I moved, and when I got to Hunters, it was like, wow, this is really cool, and that was like, for me, that I stayed there the longest time, and just my growth in terms of in my knowledge, and it was just phenomenal, so it taught me a lesson that you have to move out of your comfort zone, because nothing really changes much. It might change, but not on that, escalated sort of,
development level.
Yep. And I started sort of admin. By the time I'd finished, I was basically managing and recruiting all our staff. I was all over product development. I was working with suppliers. I was working in R&D, so I was working with our designers. I was also the logistics manager. So my job was very varied.
Yeah. So did they ask you to step into those roles, or did you kind of...
It just became that role.
Okay.
Once I got my own little office, in about
I
3-4
can do
weeks,
whatever I want.
it just became Ange. And it was always an open door if there was stuff, even when I was recruiting staff, all of a sudden I was recruiting our account staff and our admin staff and our design staff, and me, I've never recruited anyone, but it just became my role. And
did you like that? Did you like the variety?
I loved it. I thrived on it. I worked so hard. Every day was just full on jam packed, and I loved it. And I look at it now and I say, how did I churn out so much work and be cool about it every day, go in and love it?
Do you think you carried that through because of your experience at Maya, because how important that experience was for you?
Yeah.
Because what was going on personally, you really needed that 8 or 9 hours to be so good.
Yeah. And I think for me, I've always had really good managers, and I've worked with really good people. So my managers at Maya were amazing. We had such a fun team. I went into, the other couple of wholesale groups, at Playcorp. My manager then is still one of my best friends. He's like my big brother. But all these people I looked up to. There was always conversation. There was always a safeness about it, and when I went to Hunter, it was the same sort of thing. And for me, I've always looked up at these people, and I've looked up and I know how some people, work does drain them, and their managers drain them, and I didn't have that, and it was so important, and even when I was at Hunters, I'd met my husband Mark, and there was a lot going on the home front. It wasn't good, and I would go in, and whilst I'd sort of leave home in the morning, I was a bit flat. I'd go in, and these people were so supportive, and again, it was that same situation where they carried me. I thrived on the work. I'd just work, I'd focus on it, and that's what being a good manager is about. It's also respecting that you have got a life outside of work, and they were all very flexible. If you need to do this, you need to do that, and for me, I look at that and I take that into my work now.
Yeah.
I take that into, I do what I do so I can help other people manage their socials.
Yeah.
So then they have more ease at work to be able to be good people and not have that HF of, there's so much going on, or, and I just think, if there's one thing in business that as a manager we can do is to really protect, our employees, or make them count, because when you make them count, you belong. And that's what I always wanted. I wanted these, and I look at Hunters and I say, we had account staff, we had design staff, we had sales managers who'd been in the job forever, but it was really important that they all belonged, and it was so inclusive. Yeah. That everybody, regardless of what job they did, we all mattered. Yeah. Without one, the job, work wouldn't work, right? So for me, it was important that the girl in accounts felt just as important as the sales guys, and as whoever it was. And I just think that inclusiveness and that belonging makes the difference.
And for each of those individual people, their own self-worth is through the roof because of that.
It's a standout. Yeah, it is, and they appreciate it. to have people come in and say, you know, over the time, you know, that they love being there, and, you know, they almost feel like the way I feel in my job, like, awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like, awesome. They're, you know, everybody deserves that opportunity. And like I said earlier, we don't all have the opportunity. There are a lot of people that are doing what they don't like doing because their circumstance, or they don't have an option.
But also self-worth. We sort of talked about self-worth before.
Yeah.
Their self-worth, they think that that's all they deserve as well.
That's right. Yeah. But, you know, there's so much more. And, you know, if you have the opportunity to change what you're doing, go and change it, you know, and be happy.
Yeah.
We're all going to work forever, you know. Be happy and do something that you love doing. And it doesn't mean that you've been doing it for 20 years and it's the right thing. Change it up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something else is calling you, you know, just go and do it. But I just think if you don't feel like you belong in your job, then you probably don't.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So you talked about changing things up.
Yep.
So then you changed things up a little bit and started personal training.
I did. Yeah. So
what was the kind of feeling with that?
So the PT thing was more, like I said earlier, about wanting to work with kids. So I said, if I go into my PT course, I can go into a secondary course where I can help children get out and about and do things. So I started PT. I didn't end up working with the kids because then things just changed as it went. But that came after that big breakup when I became a newer person. And all of a sudden, I had a completely different outlook on well-being, on my own health, on my own sanity, and I loved it. I just loved the idea of learning. Obviously, in my PT course, I went and, you know, studied and things that I hated back at school. Like, I hated science, but I learned all about anatomy and all this sort of stuff. And it was like a completely new world that opened up to me. That, wow, how important is it to look after this? You know, this is our responsibility. No one else is going to fix it or do anything to it. And it just became this driving force that you need to get out there and you need to get your body right and your head right, you know. And that's when that all started changing. And it was like, I went into great jobs. I went, you know, I had a new perspective. And it's something that's just till this day, like, you know, before I did my PT, I'd never done a single day sport outside of what I did in school in my life. I didn't do netball, do anything. Yeah. We weren't encouraged really as kids. And then after that, I just became, you know, I loved running, I loved, you know, riding, I loved, you know.
This newfound
love. Yeah, but it was more also about, I started looking at ways to change my health. Yeah. Because when I went through that toxic marriage, my health disintegrated, my immune system shut down. I was so close to, you know, I ended up with glandular fever and the whole thing, and I wasn't doing anything to fix it. You know, bar sooking, and you know, so then I realised, oh my gosh, like, you know, pick yourself up. Yeah. And after I did all that training and all that study, I realised how important, you know, what we put in. Yeah.
So this was at the same time as Hunter, or was this after Hunter?
So I did training before Hunter, but I worked as a PT. Okay. After hours. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so at the same time.
Yeah. So I worked as a PT. So some of that time I worked, quite ironically, in a fish and chip shops one night, and as a PT the other night. So
it's about balance.
It was quite funny. It was a bit of a joke, but I just, you know, at the time, you know, I didn't have a partner, didn't have children, so for me it was just, again, I had really good friendships in PT, really good friendships at the shop. So,
but you've obviously had very good examples, like obviously through family, of hardworking people. Yeah. See, you know, you're doing all these things. Yeah.
And it was never, like, I was never money driven, you know, and I wasn't, it was purely because I liked to be busy. You know, my dad, you know, the hardest working, you know, man on this planet. My mum, the same, you know, my uncles, I look at everybody around us, they all work so hard. I mean, it didn't have everything, but we had what we needed. But it was their determination to make every moment count. Yeah. And for me, it's, I look at it and I say, you know, I'm not a psycho. Like, even now, there are weeks where I work 50 hours a week and then I'm solo parenting, you know, in between. But it's because I love what I do and I have that freedom to do it over the times that I want to now. But it's so important that, you know, we have to be hardworking. Yeah. You know, especially today, you know, things are hard to come by, and it's like, if we don't work hard, no one's going to do it for us, you know.
We're responsible for ourselves.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, that's why I say, if you're in a good place and you're working in a good job, working hard, it's not so much working hard, it's working the hours that we work, but it's still enjoyable. Yeah. It's not a chore, you know. And I look at my parents and, like I said, my uncles and my aunties, and they all did it. And we all turned out okay, So all I can hope is that, my daughter turns out as okay and hopefully better.
Yeah.
But she looks up and she sees that, mum works hard.
Yeah.
But in saying that, she's still there.
Yeah.
When we need her, so, and that's really important.
So speaking about your daughter Nick, so where does she slot in? When was she born?
So after I left Hunter overseas, I left Hunter overseas because, again, I was tapped on the shoulder by a supplier who I had worked with at PlayCorp, and his business is in Williamstown. So it was a 3-minute drive from home, whereas I was driving to Brighton every day. And I finally succumbed to going, okay, I'll come and work for you. And I went across and worked with him. He was also in sporting goods again. So he was doing all the above ground pools for the retail stores. And while I was there, I got married to Mark. And then at the time, Mark had a young son, Jack, who was about 7 at the time, and he came to live with us. So
instant stepmom.
Yeah, I stepped down my job so I could look after Jack and be the school mum. So for 3 years
Was it hard to make that decision, to do that?
It wasn't hard making the decision because I knew Mark was working and I just knew Jack needed someone.
Yeah.
He came from a very unstable environment from Sydney. He needed some stability, and I adored him.
Yeah.
And
Obviously
it was
very
actually
family
exciting.
orientated,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't have my own child. It was exciting. Jack and I had a great relationship, so I do all the school pickups, the whole thing. And then, Jack went to high school, and then Mark and I got married, and then a year later we had Nick. So, being stepmom was something that I didn't really even know what a stepmom was growing up. It was very foreign to us.
Very traditional,
But it was just a natural progression. And, Mark, it took a lot off Mark's plate so he could concentrate on work and all the rest of it. And I just was natural.
Yeah.
It was just, I can't even explain it. It was just like he'd been around me all my life.
Yeah.
I was meant to be his stepmom. And then when I had my daughter, it was completely different. Even though I felt like I'd been a mum, it was just so different because I hadn't done that baby phase and stuff.
Yeah.
So once Jack came along, that was when I stopped working for other people. That was it. I was helping Mark in the family business and his, but I wasn't working, per se for others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you miss it?
I didn't really. I didn't miss, because I kept the friendships.
Yeah.
So all these people that, that became really good friends with, they were still with me. We'd catch up, we'd see each other. I'd bounce ideas off them for work because I was working in Mark's business, they were still there.
You still had their support.
Yeah, I still had their support. They were still friends. Some of them came to our wedding. It was just, the friendships were still there. But I didn't, because then I went to Mark's work and he had his own staff, so I didn't miss the company as such. I missed it more after I had Nick and I was home on my own, where I missed the banter and the companionship and having people around all day. That's when I missed work.
Yeah.
I never actually missed like work, but that work culture I missed.
The social side of it all. Yeah.
Because then by then Jack wasn't with us. He was in high school and he'd moved. So I was just home with the little bubs. Yeah.
So you're really craving that sort of social aspect rather than the work aspect.
Yeah, it was a social aspect, and also I just stopped becoming creative and stopped doing things, So I decided about 6 months into having Nick that I wanted to start another business, and I started a business called Little Beba Gifts, which I created. I started sourcing products from local suppliers, and I built my own website, and it was basically creating gift packs, high-end gift packs for new mums, young mums, and kids' birthdays. So
did you find it easy, like the practical aspects of the business, because of the experience that you'd had?
I did. I found that I kind of knew what to do. The buying side of it, sourcing from suppliers. I knew basically the ins and outs of minimums, quantities and all the rest of it, the logistics of it. But I still remember, Nick wasn't a sleeper, so she didn't sleep for the first 2 years. She barely slept. But I would put her in her cot, and then from 7 till 10 was my working time. And I still to this day remember seeing, I had butcher paper on the floor because I'm a pens and paper kind of person, and I'd have all these ideas, and And when I rolled out the website, I was so proud. It was like, whoa, I actually did it. And the boxes came up amazing. I sourced the most beautiful quality boxes, and I got ribbon printed and the whole thing. I had, friends who helped me source, supplies to print ribbon and all the rest of it. And it was awesome, and the first order came in, I was like, oh my God, an order that's not from family. It was pretty cool, But I couldn't sustain that because carrying the stock was just killing me.
Yeah.
I had no income.
So it was all from home.
Yeah, I was all from home. Well, then ended up moving everything to my parents. My dad built some shelving in his office, and I had all the tubs in there, and I'd go and pick the stock and the orders and send them off. And the freight killed me, but then it was just carrying the stock. So I had to wind that down after a little while.
So how long were you doing that business for?
I had I think for about nearly two years after the website went live. So a number of orders went out. I got a couple of write-ups in some of the kids' magazines, which was awesome. But it was just, I couldn't afford because I was basically, the order came in, I couldn't wait. I wasn't drop shipping or anything. It was basically everything I had. I'd pack it all, wrap it, send it. So I just couldn't do it. So I wound that down. And I was like,
were you
okay.
sad? Did you feel like a bit like a failure because
I did
of that?
Because I love the idea of the name because it was based on Nick, little Beba, like Beba is baby kind of, and that it was massive for me to do that. I'd never done anything like that in my life. It was huge, but I just knew it wasn't going to work because I couldn't afford.
But you obviously had a supportive family there.
I did, yeah.
And Mark was supportive.
Yeah, and Mark was great. He was supportive, and in the end, he's just like, Ange, if it's not going to work, just leave it. Just drop it. And then I couldn't even take the website offline for so long. I was like, I kept paying for the renewal. I'm like, and it wasn't until this year I actually didn't pay for the name. But it was massive. And I think that's where I said to myself, you can do this. You don't have to work for somebody else. You've had really good leaders all the way. Yeah. And Mark's been supportive all the way. So, you can do it. And then one thing led to another, and then social media was just a bit of a thing on the side. And then I was like, no, I can do this as a business,
So you did social media. Was it for Mark's business?
I was doing it for Mark. So basically, I was doing all his accounts remotely from home. And then I said to him one day, we should just do Facebook or something for work. And so I started his accounts, and he started getting leads through Facebook. And I wasn't doing it well because I didn't know then. It was sort of newish. And
but you had all that experience.
I had the experience, yeah. It was more just, knowing that you just have to give people the information they need. Yeah. And, in a snapshot. And from that, a couple of his friends got on that, and they're like, can Ange help us? And then I started helping a couple of people just as a volunteer to help their business. And then one day I thought, maybe I can do this, and I approached a local business, and he goes, Ange, all right. He goes, look, I don't know anything about it, but why don't you try it for 3 weeks? A local real estate agent. Yeah, okay. He goes, talk to so-and-so in the business because I've got no idea. Yeah. So I said for 3 weeks, and then after 3 weeks, she goes, look, Ange, we'll do it for 3 months. I know you're just starting out and stuff. We'll support you. I wound them up a couple of months ago after 3 years.
Wow.
So that was just because she said once, we'll just do it ongoing. And I said, what do you mean ongoing? She goes, we'll just do it ongoing. And I thought, ongoing, Yeah. But 3 years later, they wound it up. But it just became something that I really loved doing. And then people told other people, and even to this day, I'm still helping. I manage accounts, but I also help others as a volunteer. Like I do the Hobson's Bay Toy Library as a volunteer. I do the Omarosa Creek College as a volunteer. So it's just, as long as I'm helping someone, it doesn't have to be, You
get your enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, that's right. So for me, that's what drives me. It's just watching how it can help other people. Yeah.
So how many years now has Social Media Mania been going?
So 4 years now.
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years. And I think it's very different to what it was, say, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And when I started, 4 years ago, there wasn't hardly any social media agencies.
Yeah.
You'd approach people and they'd be, what's this? Or, we don't need Facebook, or, it was, whereas now everybody wants to be on Facebook and Instagram. But in saying that, there are hundreds of social media agencies as well. So it's more about, and that's great because there's a lot of work for everyone, and, competition is great. But I just look at it and say, well, as long as there's help for those that reach out for it, it's awesome, that they can do it. And, you know, I still do all the accounts that I've been doing, you know, for as many years.
So you've kind of niched with that?
Yeah, well, I always sort of focused more on the health and wellness side, but then opportunities will come up. There are some opportunities that I've said no to, like it's just not my thing, like insurance, and leave me out of it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I can't represent you well enough in that space. But, you know, I've been working with an IT company for nearly 3 years. IT is not my thing either, but I spend a lot of time researching each week. But there's been, you know, retail, there's been the Nurses Association, there's a lot of different areas, you know, car air conditioning or whatever it is. But I just find that naturally to me, that wellness space, I resonate more with that. But with all the other businesses, I do my research. You know, you would never know if you're looking at the accounts that, you know, I've got no idea about IT. You know, and sometimes I go, well, I did that, you know. But yeah, so, but generally, if I'm approached, if it's something that doesn't sit right with me, I'll recommend to somebody else that I know, or I'd say, look, these guys do it really well, or why don't you have a look at them, or I'll make a call even in the group, guys, does anybody, you know. Because I don't feel like if I can't give them 100%, then they're better off with someone else.
So do you miss, because now you work on your own, do you miss, because, you know, the social aspect of these teams that you were working with?
I do miss it, but I find that because I work, you know, in my own hours, I can shuffle it all up. So I'll do a few hours. I might, you know, drop Nick at school, then I might go to the office for a couple of hours, or if I work from home, and then I might have an appointment somewhere in between, you know, that and school pickup, and then I'll do Nick's after school, you know, activities. So I'm finding I'm still getting that social interaction. And then we've got the networking group, so there's always conversation. I try and get out, you know, and do a lot more to more networking events where I can. And then in the office, I share the office with my brother. So the times that we're there together are far and few. But when we are there, it's great to have conversation. I mean, with Rachel downstairs as well.
So you do have banter and things.
But it's sort of, I guess I don't go to the office as much because I liked that flexibility of, you know, getting up, walking out, you know, going to an appointment and having conversation.
And so how old's Nick now?
So Nick's 8.
Nick's 8 now.
Nick's 8, and you know, I'm still doing every drop off, every pickup, you know, where I can. I'll take it at karate or Greek school, whatever it is. So for me, that is my priority. You know, being mum is my priority. My second priority is making sure that I'm in a good space, so then I can be that person. And then work. You know, and when I look at on an average week, if I can get 50 hours of work done around all that, then I feel like I've had a good week. You know, I mean, and in some weeks, you know, generally it's about 40, about just over 40 hours a week where I have to physically sit down and work, and the other hours are basically, you know, if I'm doing engagement on my phone, while I'm waiting for Nick at gymnastics or whatever it is,
fitting it in where you can.
And then I also do, you know, each week there'll be coaching sessions or master classes but they're just sort of the one-offs that come across. But I just go, providing Nick's good and she's happy, and providing that I'm in a good headspace, you know, I've gone for a run, I've gone for a walk, I've done whatever, you know, then all the other stuff's going to happen. You know.
Is there anything that if you could go back you'd change?
The only thing I can say is I wish I was 20 years younger or 20 years earlier, because I look at it now, you know, I hit 50 last year, and I think, wow, if I was 30 and I was where I am now in terms of confident about being able to grow a business, and, you know, sometimes I stop myself and say, right, Ange, you don't need to do any more because, you know, God, you'll be 55 in a few years and whatever, you know, let the young guns go and do it all, you know, and it stops me from even wanting to grow my business, and it stops me from wanting
to... You're putting a time limit on everything.
I put a time limit, and people say to me, you're crazy, like, you're still young. But for me, it's like, oh, whatever, in 5 years' time, you know, God, I'll be on pension before I know it, kind of thing, you know. Whereas I say if I was 20 years younger, and I say this every day, I would take my business into a totally different direction. And Mark's always said to me, I can't believe, like, you constantly say no to people, you know, like you push, you know, and I just say, you know what, because I'm so comfortable like I love what I do, and I get offers weekly, you know, people that want my help, and but I've just got to that point where I go, I can't possibly do any more by myself unless I start employing people. So that's heaps for now.
Yeah.
Because I'm still, you know, solo parenting and doing all the other stuff. So, but yeah, that would be the only thing, you know. But then I look at it and I go, gosh, all this wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't have my gorgeous girl. But if I was just a chunk of even 10 years, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I just go, well, that's just life, you know. I'm lucky that I'm here and I've got it.
Isn't it funny though, because you know, you say you're comfortable now. That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
Well, you know, we strive for this and we strive for that, but sometimes just being comfortable where you are.
Yeah, and it's taken so long because, like I said, when I was younger, until when I hit 27, 28, I wasn't me. I didn't have me. You know, I didn't have that confidence. I'm not a super confident person now either. You know, but I just find that. I just know now, you know, if I keep these few things in place, you know, my health, you know, my outlook on life, you know, every night I write in my gratitude, you know, I'll write 1 or 2 sentences about, you know, just what I got out of the day. Yeah. And it does sound tacky or whatever, but I just go, I never had that before, and I look at that and I go, every day we're grateful for something. Every day. Doesn't matter how crap the day was, there is something there that you can find out of the day, you know. And I just think these things survive me, you know, and I've got, you know, fantastic siblings and parents and a great family, and, you know, my friends are amazing and they're all supportive. And I think we're so lucky. Yeah. We are so lucky, you know. Other people would kill for that. You know, I don't strive for, you know, big dollars, and I don't strive for a big name, and, you know, I'd rather go under the radar than shout out and brag, and, you know, it's not my thing. Yeah. But I can say that, you know,
you're doing what you love every day.
Yeah, and, you know, it's every day little things come up and you just go, well, it could have been worse. Yeah. You know. So.
I find it really interesting because I think with the whole entrepreneurial space, you know, you've got to hustle and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. Yeah. But what I'm finding, especially with the women that are attracted to Heal Shine, is we're building the businesses on our own terms.
Exactly.
Not someone else's, this is what an entrepreneur does. Like that list is irrelevant to us because we're doing what feels right for us and what works with our lives and our family and our responsibilities, which is exactly what you're an example of.
And that's what you need to. If you don't have that, like, you know, I see it all the time. You know, I follow so many accounts on Insta, you know, I need to for, you know, for my clients and whatever it is. And some things I just cringe and I just go, that is so fake. That message that you're sending out, it's just going to crush someone, you know. It doesn't have to be like that. People do what they do because they want to do it. And if it's enough, it's enough. Yeah. You know, if they feel like they belong in that space, if they feel like they're getting what they're getting out of work, that's enough. Yeah. You know, they don't have to go to the next level. You don't have to build your business to the next thing. Yeah. You know, I've had opportunities, you know, in the last couple of years where people have asked me to go across and work with them, and it's not my thing. Yeah. You know, that'd be great, and I look at it and I go, that's probably great in the monetary sense, but I wouldn't get more out of it than what I would get doing my own thing. You know, and that's, it just comes down to, it's my terms. I know I've got to get, you know, 50 hours of work a week done. I'll get it done on my terms, whether it means, you know, I'm doing it while, you know, Nick's at karate or whatever, or rather than just sitting in the car just doing nothing, or, you know, I'll do it and it's my turn. And if I don't get that 10 hours done extra, then I've got to make time, or I'll do it next week, whatever it is. But no one's calling the shots. No one's saying it has to be a certain way. You know, if we're making do and, you know, we're paying our bills and we're happy, you know, and, you know, this entrepreneur word, I think a lot of people are starting to feel like it's a box that they need to fit into.
Yeah. And I felt like that before.
It's not. It's not a box. It's just a stupid word. Yeah. You know, the box is what you build. Yeah. You know, if that's the box you want to live in and you want to do well in,
go for it.
Go for it. But otherwise, like, lose the box that's got that big word on it. Yeah. You know, that's just a nothing word. It's just a today word.
It's the smoke and mirrors of business. Yeah.
And, you know, you don't have to go and tell everyone that, you know, every day you did this and you did that. If that's not you, like, you won't see me on a video a Facebook Live or anything, I just won't put my face there. I just
This is a
won't do
huge
it.
thing for you to
It's
put your face.
huge. It is, but it's not my, today I did this, and you know, like every now and then I'll let people know that, you know, someone's coming today and we've worked on this and that, you know, which is a great win for them. But it's not about me. It's not about what I've achieved every day. I just know, that at the end of the day when I go to bed, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, and that's it.
Yeah.
And my girl,
You've made you happy, and you've made your family happy.
And she's happy, and she's gone to bed, and she's had a good day, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I work for myself. Yeah. You know, and I've been lucky enough to have that even when I worked under others.
But do you think you were the person that created some of that happiness around you in your workplace?
Well, I look at it now and I think, I feel like, especially in the last couple of jobs there, like at Play Corporate Hunters, I was like the middle of all that.
Yeah, the glue that held it together.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, where's Ange? Where's Ange? Ange? You know, it was like constant, you know, all day, Ange. But I kept it together, and because there were all these different, you know, people, whether they were sales managers or whatever it was, you know, designers or whatever, everyone came together. Yeah. And we just all, I think, I don't know, we just jerried, you know, and for me, I was that, you know, the one that was bringing them together all, you know, let's do this or let's do that social thing or whatever, and and I just think now I do that for my own little family, you know, and in that is work. Yeah. But you know what, if there are other things that come up, as long as I haven't let my clients down, because, you know, there are clients each week that need to get done like that, I'll do their work and I'll do everything I can. But if I've got spare time, I probably should be, you know, at an event or listening to a podcast or whatever, but I don't. I'm going to go for a walk and get myself in a good space. I might go and cook something or whatever it is, you know, or reach out and see someone I haven't seen for ages. That's more important to me right now. Yeah.
I love that, Ange.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for listening.
I really appreciate No, anytime. I really appreciate you being so open and honest with all of us as well.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and
hon.
thank you. Oh, thank you. It's always so good to hear the stories where you kind of find yourself and you really own it. Yeah. And I think your story is one of that. Yeah.
And I, you know, it's taken me 50 years to own it, but you know, as an almost granny, I can say, I do. I know, but you know, just go, I'm one of the older. I'm at the older side, and I just say, you know what, maybe it's taken me that long for a reason.
But you know what, as well, like I'm 41 now. As soon as you hit 40, you kind of, I'm not taking anyone else's shit anymore. You kind of get to a point where you're like, I'll just do it my way and don't worry about anyone else.
And see how it all works out. It all just works out. You know, whatever's not supposed to be on your plate isn't. Yeah. And if it is, then you just get rid of it and, you know, do the things that make you happy. Life's so short. Like it's the biggest cliche ever, but it is so short.
Make the most
change
of every day.
In a minute, you know. And gosh, if we don't embrace it and make a go of it, like, I don't know, I just watch precious. People that just thinking about senseless things, or it's like, really, you know,
not worth it.
Look what you've got. And I just look at Nick and I just say, if everything else was stripped of me, I'd still be happy. You know,
you've got her, and she's got you. Thanks, Ange.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, but we'll see you next time on the She Will Shine podcast.
Bye.